I mean, I'm surprised that y'all talked 2 weeks before. This, to me, I'm like, okay, there must have been some tension leading up to it. Like, y'all must have been on bad terms, something. One last question. If he were to call you up and say, yo, let's work it out, would you do it?
I don't want to talk to that nigga.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't want to talk to that nigga, like, you know.
Today, we're taking a deep look into Louisiana street politics that many people underestimate. This situation caught statewide attention. Most of you remember when NBA YoungBoy released the song Nussy, and the entire state of Louisiana reacted immediately. But this situation goes far beyond music. This isn't just about a song. It involves long-standing street conflicts, serious criminal cases, and two major figures from the same city whose relationship quickly shifted from respect to rivalry. When YoungBoy mentioned Nussy in the record, it wasn't casual name-dropping. That reference reopened old issues that Boosie believed were long settled. We're talking about a murder case that once placed Boosie at risk of facing the death penalty, a well-known street figure who was killed, and how Baton Rouge has remained divided ever since. Situations like this don't fade quietly. They change the entire dynamic. To understand how things reach this point, we have to go back to the beginning. NBA YoungBoy and Boosie both come from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, but their relationship has always been more complex than many people realize. Baton Rouge isn't a large city, roughly 220,000 residents, so when two major artists rise from the same place, their paths are bound to cross. Boosie had already established himself as a respected figure in Baton Rouge during the early 2000s. By the time YoungBoy was still a kid in the neighborhood, Boosie was already recognized as a local legend. This was Lil Boosie during the Trill Ent era, releasing classics alongside Webby while YoungBoy was still in school. However, Baton Rouge itself is divided. There's North Baton Rouge, South Baton Rouge, and multiple wards with long-standing tensions. Boosie comes from the south side, specifically the bottom area, while YoungBoy represents the north. That geographic separation may seem minor to outsiders, but in street politics, it carries serious weight. When YoungBoy started gaining traction around 2015 and 2016, Boosie was already an established name. At first, there was mutual respect. Boosie acknowledged YoungBoy's talent, and YoungBoy understood the importance of respecting those who built the foundation. There was no initial conflict. In fact, they were on good terms. Things began to change quietly. The first strain in their relationship wasn't about direct hostility. It was about respect and industry etiquette. YoungBoy's rise was extremely fast. His YouTube growth was significant, his street reputation was solid, and major labels began paying attention quickly. But with that success, some felt he stopped following certain unwritten rules. Boosie began feeling slighted when YoungBoy wasn't clearing records or showing public support for Louisiana artists the way he expected. Boosie addressed this during an interview, explaining how he regularly cleared records and supported artists from the state. He mentioned working smoothly with certain teams, but expressed confusion about what went wrong with YoungBoy's camp, stating he didn't understand how things shifted the way they did.
When YoungBoy first started, I jumped on they shit and cleared all they shit for him, you know? All they artists, you know? I fuck with Feed them, you know? But, you know, I don't know what the fuck happened with Top, bro.
What Boosie was describing was a lack of reciprocity. He had consistently supported Louisiana artists, but when it came to YoungBoy, that same respect no longer seemed present. Whether it was due to label issues or personal differences, the relationship cooled. That's when subliminal remarks started appearing. Boosie felt disrespected, and in Louisiana, disrespect toward a veteran artist doesn't go unnoticed. The streets began choosing sides, either aligned with Boosie or with YoungBoy, and that division has continued to affect Baton Rouge. During the peak of the tension, Boosie made his stance clear. He openly stated that YoungBoy wasn't following protocol and wasn't honoring the artists who paved the way. Boosie believed he had helped build Louisiana hip-hop, and that YoungBoy's behavior reflected a lack of appreciation. As the situation escalated, both artists began referencing one another in music. YoungBoy released lyrics many interpreted as shots toward Boosie, while Boosie responded with his own indirect remarks. Fans fueled the rivalry, but in the streets, the separation became more serious. Boosie's message remained consistent. YoungBoy needed to understand his position and respect the foundation laid before him. Unexpectedly, the tension eased for a short period. A significant phone call took place involving Kevin Gates, Fredo Bang, Boosie, and NBA YoungBoy. This wasn't an ordinary conversation. It represented major Louisiana figures attempting to bring the conflict to an end. Boosie later spoke about this moment, explaining how the call came during a difficult period in his life following a plea deal in his federal case. He was dealing with legal pressure, personal struggles, and uncertainty about the future. That conversation carried weight for him. For a brief moment, it appeared that Louisiana unity was possible again. Boosie discussed potential music collaborations with YoungBoy, fans responded positively, and tensions cooled. Kevin Gates played a key role in facilitating peace, as he's long acted as a mediator in Louisiana. Fredo Bang, Boosie's cousin, also had a vested interest in ending the conflict. Another important detail often overlooked is Boosie's son, Tootie Raw. He's openly a fan of NBA YoungBoy's music. That reality likely influenced Boosie's willingness to move past the dispute. When family becomes involved, perspective changes. Tootie Raw represents a younger generation of Louisiana listeners who prefer unity over division. That influence likely helped Boosie reconsider the long-term impact of continued conflict. Realistically, Boosie understands that engaging in prolonged conflict with YoungBoy isn't beneficial. This isn't about fear, it's about strategy. YoungBoy carries a reputation shaped by real experiences, including arrests, violent encounters, and loss within his circle. His music reflects those realities, and the streets recognize that authenticity. Boosie has faced enough legal challenges to know that escalating conflict with someone who lives that reality isn't worth the risk. He has already survived major cases, built businesses, and established a legacy. Risking that for industry disputes doesn't make sense. YoungBoy is younger, more aggressive, and has fewer responsibilities. Boosie has children, financial interests, and a name to protect.
Age also plays a role. Boosie is now in his 40s with experience and perspective. YoungBoy is still in his early 20s, operating with youthful intensity. Boosie likely sees parts of himself in YoungBoy and understands how easily things can go left. That said, it's important to be clear, Boosie isn't weak, he's simply choosing restraint over unnecessary escalation. He knows how to choose his battles. Going to war with YB was never a smart move, especially since they're from the same city and should be focused on building something together. Just when things finally seemed calm, NBA YoungBoy shocked everyone by dropping a song nobody expected. He released a track titled Nussy, and when that record came out, the streets reacted immediately and not quietly. For anyone unfamiliar, Nussy was a well-known street figure in Baton Rouge who was killed back in 2009. But here's the issue. Boosie was once charged with ordering that hit. This was the same case that nearly landed Boosie on death row, and now, years later, YB casually releases a song named after that exact person. The timing alone raised serious questions. Just weeks after a peacemaking phone call, YB drops a track that was almost guaranteed to upset Boosie. Either YB didn't fully think it through, or he knew exactly what he was doing and chose to provoke a reaction. Christopher Jackson, known as Nussy or Mr. Badazz, was one of the most feared and respected figures in Baton Rouge during the 2000s. He wasn't just another street guy, he was a recognized street legend. Originally from Easy Town, he strongly represented South Baton Rouge. He was making serious money, ran his own crew, and was trying to transition into rap. He even owned his own nightclub, Club 225, and lived what many considered a boss lifestyle. In one of his final interviews, Nussy spoke openly about his image. He described himself as a street figure trying to prove he could rap, saying the streets supported him because he came up the traditional way. But his reputation wasn't clean. He wasn't just involved in drugs, he was known for robbing other dealers, including people close to him. There were stories about him robbing his own father's supplier, taking large amounts and disappearing without a trace. Nussy also had ongoing conflicts with several people in Baton Rouge, including individuals tied to Boosie's circle. These disputes involve territory, money, and respect, the same street politics that often lead to violence. On February 9, 2009, everything changed. Nussy was shot and killed at his home on America Street in Baton Rouge. It was an execution-style killing with multiple gunshot wounds to the head. Almost immediately, rumors started circulating and Boosie's name was mentioned as the person who allegedly ordered the hit. Federal prosecutors built their case around a teenage shooter named Michael or Marlo Louding. They claimed he acted as Boosie's enforcer and carried out several murders under Boosie's direction, including Nussy's. According to prosecutors, Boosie placed a $30,000 bounty on Nussy due to ongoing street conflicts. They portrayed Boosie as a criminal leader who used younger individuals to eliminate rivals. The charges were serious enough that Boosie faced the death penalty.
Marlo Mike initially cooperated and was prepared to testify. He even had a tattoo that read Boosie with "Who's Next" underneath. At that point, prosecutors believed their case was solid. Then, everything fell apart. Marlo Mike later took the stand and admitted he lied about Boosie ordering the murders. Without his testimony, the case collapsed and Boosie was acquitted. Still, the damage was already done. Even after the verdict, Nussy name remained linked to Boosie's legal troubles. The prosecution had claimed Boosie ran a criminal organization and targeted Nussy because of street beef and territorial issues. They said they had phone records and witnesses supporting that theory. But once their main witness changed his story, the case couldn't stand. Even though Boosie was found not guilty, public perception didn't fully change. That's why YoungBoy releasing a song called Nussy carried so much weight. It reopened old wounds and brought back memories many felt should have been left alone. When Boosie responded, it was clear he was hurt. In interviews, he explained why he refuses to speak on the dead, even people he once had issues with. He made it clear he doesn't cross that line. Despite the situation, Boosie showed restraint. He could have responded aggressively or released a diss track, but instead, he chose to step back. When asked if he'd speak to YoungBoy, Boosie admitted he was conflicted. You could hear the disappointment in his voice. This wasn't just music, it was personal. YoungBoy bringing up Nussy felt like a betrayal, especially after they had just made peace. Boosie truly believed they had moved past their issues and were ready to unite Louisiana. Instead, YoungBoy reopened the deepest wound possible. That song changed everything. Any plans of collaboration disappeared. Any sense of unity in Baton Rouge was gone. YoungBoy reopened pain Boosie thought was long healed, and there was no easy way back. This situation shows how complex street politics can be, especially when it involves respected figures from the same city. Boosie and YoungBoy should be building together and representing Baton Rouge on a bigger level. Instead, unresolved history and emotions pulled them back into conflict. And realistically, this situation may not be finished. YoungBoy is young and appears unconcerned with consequences. Boosie is a veteran who won't tolerate disrespect, even while choosing restraint. There's a strong chance more chapters will come before this ends. At the end of the day, both are Louisiana royalty. There's room for both of them, but pride, ego, and street history continue to create tension where collaboration should exist.